We're going to hear Charles Amirkhanian's piece,
Okay.
Audible Autopsy. It was commissioned by Herb Leventer. And Herb, you have been amazing. Thank you so much. I don't know how many of these pieces you've commissioned, but you're great. Thank you. And this is performed, I think, by Charles and Robert Black, or maybe just by Robert Black. I don't know what to
I think
expect.
Charles he's present, yeah.
It's going to be
As far as I
something
understand.
special. So here we
Charles
go.
Amirkhanian,
I
the great
think.
radio, I should just say the great radio personality, among other things, the innovator in terms of composing and using speech and composition, but also one of the great supporters of new music.
So Charles Amirkhanian, a world premiere, Audible Autopsy. Let's go. Let's go hear it.
Robert, you're waiting for me.
Oh, hi, Charles.
Oh, great to see you. Listen, I've been really concerned about this idea of musicians trapped in their bedrooms trying to do world premieres over Zoom. It's wearing thin for me. What about you?
Well, I do kind of miss the interaction.
Yeah, I mean, with no audience, you got to fake it, and just wondering if there's something we can do, be a little bit different. Geez.
What do you have in mind?
Well, do you have a couple minutes first so we can plan something?
Yeah, sure. I have plenty of time.
Let's just talk through all the possibilities and then come up with an idea. By the way, I've been meaning to ask you, where are you exactly?
Oh, well, right now I'm in my studio. It's in my house, and I'm in Hartford, Connecticut.
Wow. Insurance companies all over the place.
Oh, yeah. Nice and secure here.
How old is your house?
Oh, gosh, it's almost 100 years old. It was made in 1923.
I think that's the year Ned Rorem was born, and he's still alive.
Oh, gosh. Well, then we know how old the house is.
Has that wallpaper been there all these years? That's really interesting, strange wallpaper.
Oh, no, this wallpaper, I put this wallpaper in after we had moved in. I first saw this wallpaper at an exhibition about the Wiener Werkstatt, a group of artists in the 1920s in Vienna. And there was an artist there, working there, Dagobert Pesch, and he designed this wallpaper.
That's his name?
Yeah, can you imagine? Nice name.
It's a nice name. So, okay, how did that wallpaper get to your room?
Well, it's a little bit of a story because I was in Vienna playing with the Vienna Philharmonic, and I was staying in the presidential suite at the Hotel Intercontinental, one of my favorite hotels, and one of the rooms in the hotel was papered with this very wallpaper. And it was just a couple of weeks after I had seen that exhibition, and so the coincidence was so striking that I just steamed it off the walls in the hotel and brought it home, put it on the walls.
Did you get an enormous bill when you arrived home?
Oh, yeah.
Uh-oh. Gee.
It was big.
Was it worth it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been living with this wallpaper now for, oh gosh, that was about 30 years ago.
Hey, somebody told me that you played tuba in your high school band. I just can't imagine.
No, I did.
Where?
Yeah. In Arvada, Colorado. That's where I grew up.
Where is that?
Well, it's a little suburb outside of Denver.
Okay, and the story that I heard was that you gave up the tuba for the double bass. Good move, though.
Well, I wouldn't go that far that I gave it up, but it was actually when I was in middle school, in 7th grade, that I started to play the double bass. I was playing tuba, and then my band teacher suggested I started to that I play the double bass because we needed a bass player in the jazz band.
For when? Like a year from then?
No, right then and there.
You didn't even know how to play it.
No, but he showed me what to do. Let me show you. I can show you what happened.
Okay, all right.
Let me pick up my bass here. So what Mr. Gillian did is he said, all right, now you put your finger, oops, I read the boat. You put your finger here, and that is a C, and that's a C on the music staff. And then you play this open A, and that's that open A. So I could read the rhythms, and he said, all you have to do is map the finger to that, to what you see on the page, and you know, I started to look at it, and I was doing this. And then 20 minutes later, I was in the jazz band, and we were rehearsing the first tune.
And two notes? You knew two notes, is that all?
That's all I needed. And the tune was Eleanor Rigby, da-da-da-dee, da-da-da-da-dee, da-da-da. We didn't have the lyrics, so I never learned them. It was an instrumental.
Wow, what a story. That's just amazing. But, you know, it's kind of prophetic because you ended up, in this one instance, playing in front of a lot of people with the Beatles toward the end of their careers. And I just think it must have been shocking to have been put in that position. Could you?
Oh, yeah. Well,
how that happened? Is that true?
That's absolutely true. It's an amazing story. You know, I was in 7th grade. I was 13 years old, and I became quite well known for playing Eleanor Rigby on the double bass. I kind of had a reputation. People came from all over to hear me play that. So one day, I got this telephone call from Paul McCartney.
Ooh.
Yeah, and he knows a thing or two about bass playing. So he said the Beatles had a concert coming up in northern England and wanted to engage me to come and play Eleanor Rigby with the band.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
So what was the scene like there?
Well, it was at the first International New Music Festival in Huddersfield, England, way up in the north part of the state. Real gray day, rainy. I remember everybody had, you know, rain slickers and umbrellas and everything like that. But there was about 25,000 people there. And I thought, wow, you know, here I am. I'm 13 years old. I've been playing the bass for like 2 months. And now I'm playing with the Beatles.
That's amazing. What a story.
Pretty great.
That's beautiful. What is that?
Yeah, that's pretty nice. That is the opening tune from the Sonatina by Jerome Moross.
Sonatina for double bass? He wrote a sonatina for double bass?
Yeah, double bass and piano. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. It's really funny, but I met Jerome Moross in person. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
It was a long time ago. I was in New York, and I was doing research on George Antheil for years, and they were very close friends. So I wanted to particularly see that apartment on East 55th because that's where Antheil died of a heart attack, and it was an amazing story because George was writing music for Walter Cronkite's TV series on CBS called The 20th Century, and Jerome Moross was living at his house in Laurel Canyon, and they traded houses essentially. So Moross could do a film score there, and George could work in New York for CBS. And he came home one day after working a long day, and he lay down on the sofa, and his wife Beshka said, "Georgie, you look really tired. I'll make you some soup." And he said, "Oh gosh, thanks. I'm really exhausted." So she goes in the kitchen, and when she comes back with his soup, he's dead. He died instantly of this massive heart attack. And but anyway, so I wanted to find out what.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
kind
It's
of
a
unbelievable.
terrible story, and I wanted to find out more about George. So I asked Maras, "Do you want to hear a little bit of what we said?"
Sure. You have
Yeah.
an interview?
Yeah. Hold on.
Well, tell me more about how you remember George when you first met him. What was he like as a person then?
Now, mind you, when I first met him, George was 31 years old.
That's
From the viewpoint
Jerome.
of 17, he was quite old. He and
Nice.
Beshka were, to me, were the height of sophistication, and they'd been around. He'd had international performances, and they were witty, and they were smart, and they were read, and they knew everybody, and I thought they were glamorous. He stayed out in Hollywood. Maybe he shouldn't have, but he got a job on the newspaper there as a lovelorn column for the Daily News, which was a marvelous paper, and it's defunct. Yeah, and he was living down in Manhattan Beach, and we were living in Pacific Palisades, and we would drive back and forth and see one another constantly. He had stopped writing, and I remember giving him a terrible dressing down for it, and Beshka thanked me for it as they left without George hearing her. And then he called me about 2 days later and said, "I'm starting to write my 4th symphony."
Really?
Yeah, you know?
It worked.
And it so obviously it worked.
Isn't it something?
That's something. And that Fourth Symphony is terrific.
Yeah,
too,
it's a
by the
great,
way, yeah.
really strong piece. And Maras was, almost 20 years younger, so it must have taken something for him to screw up his courage to ask him. Hey, one thing I've been meaning to play for you, and you might get a kick out of this. Somebody sent me a recording of an Armenian player piano roll.
Oh,
And
wow.
Since this was the year that President Biden designated the massacre of the Armenians in 1915 as a genocide, I thought we should include something about Armenia in the program. So this is a player piano rendition of a love song about a woman named Haparpan. And you can play along maybe. Let me give you an example. Here's what it sounds like.
Let me see if I can figure something out. Yeah. Oh, that's lovely.
We may need to work on that a little bit, but anyway, it's just a very strange sounding piece, and I thought maybe we could figure something out.
Sure. I mean, the tuning of the piano is it's great.
Not to mention that the roll is cut in such a way that the rhythms are not precise. Usually with player piano rolls, there's no fluctuation in the rhythm, but this one has really odd little fluctuations. But okay, well now, how many cameras do you have in your studio?
Oh, in my studio. Oh, that. I've got 4. I have camera number 1, and I have, let me get a better position here. Camera 2, camera 3, and camera 4, and camera 3, and camera 1, and camera 4, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, 3, 1, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 2, 4, 2, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 4, 3, 1, 1, 1.
Oh, we have to include that. That is really exceptional.
That's cool, isn't it?
For a Zoom performance, you go above and beyond. By the way, how old is that bass, and who made it? Is it old?
Yeah, it's old. It's actually older than the house. This bass was made in 1900 by a French bass maker, Charles Bruguière. He made it in Paris.
Yeah, but you're playing it with a German bow. How does that comport?
Well, it was kind of the EU idea.
Oh, okay.
Well.
What's your instrument's name, by the way? You must have thought about naming your instrument, right?
Well, it does have a name. I never named it, but there's a cool story about how it got named. I was once again at the International Music Festival in Huddersfield, England. This is maybe 30 years after the Beatles performance. And, you know, there were some concerts, and after a concert, my partner and I, we went to a pub out in the middle of nowhere, a place called the Sour Inn.
Huh.
And,
How do you spell the sour?
SAURINN. And so, you know, we're having some drinks in there, and the place was owned by a couple, Ron and Jane Crabtree.
Crabtree at the Sour Inn. Oh my God. You couldn't make this up.
No. And, you know, it's in the middle of nowhere. So it comes around 11 o'clock, and Jane says, well, everybody has to leave because closing hours like that. But she told Gary and I to stay, and she says, I can't sell you any more beer or ale, but it doesn't mean I can't give it to you. So we sat there for hours, until late in the night, eating pickled eggs and, you know, curried chicken chips and all kinds of pub food and drinking.
Oh my goodness.
So I brought my bass in. It was in the car. I brought it into the inn, and because they wanted to hear me play some of the music that I was playing on the festival, so I was all too happy to oblige to show them. Kind of like that.
Did the Guinness help?
It helped them. They had never heard anything quite like it before.
I wonder why.
So then finally Jane said, well, what's the name of your instrument? And I said, well, it doesn't have a name. And she said, well, if it's a French bass, you have to call it Simone.
Oh,
And that's
what a story.
Yeah, it's really great.
Is it a she/her bass? Or
I think it's just she/her.
okay, all right. Just wanted to make sure. Now listen, I understand you used to play a lot of orchestra concerts, and my experience with that is that once you play a piece a couple of times, it's in your head. Are there any particular passages that you remember playing that you enjoyed playing?
Yeah, let me think. How about this one? This one I always really liked. It's Schubert.
The Unfinished
opening,
Symphony.
The opening of the Unfinished Symphony.
Uh-huh. Oh, wow. So you get one nice little legato line, and then you're back.
And then we do this.
The life of a bass player. Anything else that you loved playing?
Gosh, there's so much, but this one is also really, it comes to mind instantly. That's the March to the Scaffolding, Hector Berlioz, Symphonie Fantastique.
That's the worst thing about these Zoom interviews is clapping with no ambience around. You guys have to juice it up.
Yeah, we tried to make a lot of sound. That was fantastic.
Well, we enjoyed doing it for you. Now we have an admission to make. That was our rehearsal from last Wednesday because we couldn't get connected on the Hartford, Connecticut end for some reason. Robert, did you figure out what happened?
I have no idea.
Oh, you have no idea. Okay, but
No,
it's
I think it might be maybe my audio interface.
We are still hearing something, right? Is it
Someone's performance is still on. Yeah. So
oh, that must be something on my end. Hold on. Yeah, it is. Oh gosh.
someone has to be.
How's that?
good?
That's good.
Yeah.
That sounds better.
Sorry.
Well, gosh, we've known Robert a really long time, and there are things I have just learned, which is fantastic. Stories I had not heard.
How much of that was true?
And I wanted to do this piece this way because I didn't know Robert. I thought he was probably a very austere serious guy who never smiled. And I found out he has a great sense of humor, and he even can tell a lie with a straight face. He never played with the Beatles, right?
I was wondering.
But I did find out one interesting fact. I've been in touch with Skip, Henry Louis Gates Jr., and it turns out that Jerome Ross is a distant cousin of Herb Leventer, who commissioned the piece.
Oh my God,
Wow,
Isn't that amazing?
that's incredible.
crazy.
It's not true either.
But
I
thank
don't
you.
know
for-
what's real and what's fake anymore.
Well,
I don't even know if I'm here.
you're there.
Well,
I can see.
I have to tell this story. This is a crazy story. Has nothing to do with anything that just happened. But there's the reason I'm telling this story is because of the Beatles. Okay.
Oh,
The first concert I gave with the very first group, I needed a viola player. And someone gave me a list of 10 viola players. This is 1984. And they said, these are the 10 viola players in New York City who play contemporary music. So I went down the list and I said,
take the Armenian.
I'm doing this piece, and it's 5 rehearsals and a concert, and it's $75. And the first guy said, "Oh, it sounds really fantastic, but I can't do it." But the second person, third person, I got to number 7, and he said, "Yeah, tell me about the music." So I start to tell him, and he says, "Well, I'll take a chance." Okay, so that was John Ladd, a violist. I played with him for more than 10 years. He's not living anymore. He taught philosophy at Columbia. He played viola, but only contemporary music. And he was a Tai Chi master also. But the reason I'm telling you this story is because he moved to New York, and the first gig he got a gig. He was like, "Oh, show up, Avery Fisher Hall. You're in the orchestra as a whatever." Brings his viola, whatever, and it's the 1970s, and he's in the orchestra accompanying John Lennon, and that was his first gig. So
That is true.
I don't know what it has to do with anything, but that's a true story.
It is a true story. Oh, that's.
And the
that
other
makes-
story I want to say is we met you, Charles. Julie and I met you in London, and you probably don't even remember this, but
At the Almeida Festival?
Ankara was at the
Oh,
Almeida
yeah,
Festival,
that's
maybe,
right. That's right.
right?
Yeah.
And we met you there.
Oh, I
And
didn't
what
remember.
year was that? That was in the 80s, I think. or-
87, I think.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe before.
Nankow gave a talk.
Oh, yes, a talk. Oh, I
And
remember
the
that.
thing I loved about the talk, I'm sorry, now we're getting off here, but is that he was wearing overalls and looking very unpretentious as Nankara was. And some very dignified, I think, musicologists, and the question asked him something about pitches, and he paused for a second. This is Conlon Nankara, and he said, "Well, I just picked the pitches I like." And I was just like, of course, that's what we all do, but he said it in the most amazing way, and I'll never forget his presence and his, persona. It was so beautiful in that moment.
Charles
That's
Boone,
the
my
beginning of our
friend,
friendship.
my friend, the composer Charles Boone, tells a story about Ernst Krenek, who looked at Charles's score and said, "Where do you get your notes? Inspiration?" Heaven forfend. I want to thank Liam Erb of the staff at Other Minds, who works with me every day of the week and helps with our online audio archive and various other projects. And Liam turned 25 yesterday. He's a French horn player and a graduate of the San Francisco Conservatory, and a good composer and a really big help. So thanks to Liam. And the piece was dedicated to Anthony Nazzo, my friend, the composer who just turned 85. Tony has been a big fan of Fluxus and of Samuel Beckett. And he was kind of the inspiration for doing a piece where you use the medium of a discussion and collage bits together to get the kind of performance that blurs the line between performance and actual life, you know. And that's what that's what we hoped we did here. And Robert, you're such a good sport to take this on, and a wonderful bass player.
It was wonderful fun. I remember when Kenny from Bang on a Can called and said, you know, we're thinking of asking Charles Amirkhanian to write a piece. What would you think of that? And I just went, oh my God, are you kidding? This man's a legend. I would love that. So it was a real thrill for me to get to know you and work with you and come up with a piece. It's wonderful.
Well, and I didn't make you say bandit, rainbow bandit, rainbow chug bandit. You got to actually make sense.
Yeah, that's
Charles, oh, go, Dave.
When I first moved to Hartford, this was like in 1975 or 6 or something like that, and I went to a concert of electronic music at the Hart School, and they played on this electronic music. They played a tape piece that was just tape and speakers, no performers on stage. I'd never seen anything like that, and there was this text that was rainbow bandit, bomb chug, rainbow bandit, chug, bomb, rainbow. Those 4 words, I'd never heard anything like it. It turns out it was Charles's piece.
And this is a true story. Tony Nazzo went to the Hart College, so he was in that building at some point, and so there's a lot of connections. Music world's full of connections, and we just made 15 more, but 3 of them weren't even true.
Okay, I have another one while we're doing this. Okay, so that piece that uses the 4 words, rainbow, chug, bandit, and bomb, there's another performance of that piece that is recorded where you take a lecture that the great musicologist Nicholas Slanimsky does on your piece, where he goes, and now here's a piece made only from the words rainbow, chug, bandit, and bomb. And then you make the whole piece over again with his pronunciation of the pieces. And the reason I never played the original piece for my parents, but I played that version because my father was Nicholas Slanimsky's doctor. So I grew up with Nicholas Slanimsky, and all of his books are, you know, I have copies of them that say, thank you for, you know, your father who has kept me alive.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah,
what was your doctor's name?
Dr. Daniel Lang, of course.
Daniel Lang.
Daniel Lang. My father was his doctor in West Los Angeles.
I don't believe that story.
It's absolutely true.
True story. That's actually a true
You
story.
can bring the book and,
I can show you the books. Yeah.
You guys are having too much fun at Bang on a Can. You're going to have to settle down.
Yeah, it's because we're on the East Coast and not on the West Coast. You know, the
Yeah.
East Coast people have a lot more fun. We surf more.
Well, I also, speaking of fun, I just want to say that aside from being such an important pioneer in creating and thinking, Charles, you've been such an advocate for new music, just tirelessly, fearlessly, you know, putting out really innovative work into the world through Other Minds, which we all love, and you know, through radio, and it's just been such a gift, that your dedication. So anyway, there was that too, and I just wanted to not make a nod to that, which has been, you know, we feel a kinship, but also admiration for all of the incredible support that you've given artists.
Well, thank you, Julian. I just hope that people listening will save everything, because you never know when somebody's going to turn out to be of interest to somebody else, and you may have the only recording of them singing happy birthday to their dog. So collect a bunch of information and store it and digitize it and give it a future. Thanks for giving us a future. That's the first
Giving it
piece
to
I've done
us.
for 14 years, guys. Nobody ever asked me to do anything anymore. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, our pleasure is so exciting.
Well, that was cool, I have to say. Charles, you've got like a lot of stories. You want to tell one about anything that's true?
That's true. Oh, gee. You could have given me a heads up in the chat
Yeah,
room.
Michael, what?
Well, let's see. Oh man, you may have stumped me. You may have stumped me. I'm trying to think of something interesting. Yes. I was at the home of Ivan Vishnegradsky in Paris. He is one of the quarter tone innovators from the mid 1920s. Still living in the late 70s, and I was interviewing him about his music. And my wife, Carol Law, the long-suffering, was with me, and we were going to yet another composer's house, and I had my microphone. We were going to interview him, and Ivan asked me if we would like to go out to dinner with him, and actually he said, "May I cook you dinner?" And he opened up a wooden cupboard, and there was a chicken leg in there that had turned green from mold. And we said, "No, Ivan, let us take you out to dinner." And and he ate like I've never seen a man eat in his life. And this was a man who would go down to the cafeteria of the Communist Party to get a cheap dinner. And he had no means of support. He was keeping the flame alive of quarter tone music, and he had absolutely not a penny. And it was an astonishing revelation for us. And now there's a Vishnegradsky Society. We recently did a piece for his Also Sprach Zarathustra for 4 grand pianos, 2 of them tuned to quarter tone out of tune. That's something that would be great in New York. People would love that. But it's so rare to hear performances of his music. And it reminds me that so many of the innovators of the 20th century virtually took themselves out of the running for fame and fortune by not writing for the orchestra. You have Harry Partch, who writes for instruments that he designed, but there was only one set for most of his life. And there's Conlon Nancarrow, and you had to have a player piano that was jacked up and had pieces of thumbtack in the hammers to make it work. And there was only one roll of each roll, so you couldn't let the music travel. And if you tried to orchestrate it, nobody could play it. And the list goes on and on. Lou Harrison with his gamelans, and there were so many things that people put themselves into a box with. For me, it was, electroacoustic music and sound poetry. Like, who wants to hear that? But that's where the interesting stuff happens sometimes. And it's good to have both. It's nice to have big orchestras doing big pieces by genius composers, and then there's the rest of us. And we do what we can. And sometimes it'll bring you to tears. It's so beautiful.
Thank you, Charles. That's great. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you all.